The year was 2475, Earth was dying. The sky had turned gray and the oceans were no longer blue. Humanity had fought too many wars, built too many machines, and taken too much from nature. The planet could not heal anymore. Cities stood like silent ghosts, covered in dust and smoke. Only a few human colonies still survived, hidden inside underground shelters or space stations orbiting the planet. Captain Raylan Ward was one of the last deep space pilots still working for the United Earth Command. He had lost everything: his home, his family, and even his hope. Now he spent his days searching the edge of the galaxy for lost signals or resources that might save the dying world. But every mission ended the same way, with silence and disappointment. One night, as Raylan's ship, the Horizon, drifted through a quiet sector of deep space, his radar began to flicker. A strange pulse appeared, slow, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. He frowned and adjusted the controls. At first he thought it was a malfunction, but then through the static a voice whispered his name, "Raylan, help me." The voice was soft, almost human, yet filled with something strange, something that made his skin crawl and his heart race. No one should have known his location. He was alone. Millions of miles from any known outpost, he checked the frequency. It was not from Earth, nor from any human ship. The voice came again, clearer this time. "Raylan Ward, you are the last hope." He froze, staring at the dark screen. "Who are you?" He whispered back, his voice trembled slightly. But curiosity pulled him deeper. The computer suddenly locked onto a new coordinate. A signal was coming from a star system far beyond the mapped galaxy. The screen flashed with strange alien symbols that the computer could not translate. Against all logic, Raylan set his ship's course toward the unknown. Hours turned into days. The journey felt endless. The stars outside stretched like white rivers as his ship crossed the outer rim of known space. Then suddenly the ship's engines began to shake. A massive wormhole appeared ahead, swirling like a storm of light and shadow. The computer screamed alarms. "Warning! Gravitational anomaly detected." But before Raylan could react, the Horizon was pulled in. Everything around him twisted. Time and sound melted into nothing. His vision blurred. And then, darkness. When he woke up, the lights inside the ship were dim. His control panels flickered weakly. Through the cracked window, he saw something breathtaking. The ship had crash-landed on a planet glowing with soft blue light. Giant crystal trees rose high into the misty air, and the sky shimmered with floating lights like living stars. Raylan stumbled out of the wreckage. The air was clean, warm, and filled with energy. Strange. Beautiful creatures moved silently in the distance. Their bodies sparkled like glass. It didn't feel like any place he had seen before. It felt alive, almost aware of his presence. Then he saw it, far away. On top of a hill covered in glowing moss, stood a tall structure. It looked like a temple made of silver stone. At its center, a bright light pulsed. Calling to him, something inside him whispered, "Go there." He followed the path, drawn by the strange energy. Every step he took made the ground hum softly beneath his boots. As he entered the temple, the air grew colder. Symbols glowed faintly on the walls, telling stories of ancient beings. At the center of the temple lay a crystal cocoon, floating above the ground. It shined with a soft blue light. Inside it, a figure rested, a woman tall and elegant. With pale silver skin and long hair that floated like liquid light, Raylan stepped closer. His heart beat faster, the voice returned. Echoing gently inside his mind, "You came. I have waited for you." The crystal shell cracked open, releasing a soft burst of light that filled the room. The woman opened her eyes, deep violet, glowing like twin stars. She looked at him with sadness and hope. "I am Elindra," she said, her voice like music. Queen of the last surviving world of the Aelirians, Raylan couldn't move. He wanted to speak, but his throat felt dry. He had never seen anything so alive, so powerful, yet so fragile. Elindra reached out her hand. "Your world is dying." "And so is mine," she said, "but together, we may save them both." Raylan stared at her, lost between fear and wonder. "Why me?" he finally asked. "Because," she whispered, "you carry the light that was lost from the stars long ago." The temple shook suddenly. A low roar echoed through the sky. Lightning flashed outside. Elindra's eyes turned bright with alarm. "They found us," she said softly. "The void has awakened." Raylan didn't know who they were, but he could feel the danger closing in. He looked at her, then at the glowing temple around them. He didn't understand what was happening, but one thing was clear. His life had just changed forever. The voice inside his head whispered again. Your journey begins now, Raylan Ward. The fate of both our worlds rests in your hands. And as the ground cracked beneath them and the temple lights flared brighter than the sun, Raylan realized that this signal, the one he had followed through the darkness of space, was never just a call for help. It was a call of destiny. The temple was trembling. Bright streams of light ran across its silver walls like rivers of energy. Raylan covered his face as wind rushed through the chamber, carrying whispers of voices too ancient to understand. When the storm finally settled, he looked up and saw the alien queen standing tall before him, her glowing eyes fixed on his, Elindra. The last queen of the Illyrians was unlike anything Raylan had ever seen. Her body shimmered with faint silver light, and her presence felt both powerful and calm. Around her, floating symbols spun slowly in the air, forming patterns that looked like constellations. She took a deep breath, as if she had just awoken from a long, endless dream. You answered the signal, she said softly, her voice echoing inside Raylan's mind as well as through the air. For ages I have waited for one who could hear it. Raylan stepped back, trying to find his words. I don't understand, he said. Who are you? What do you mean, waited? Elindra moved closer. Her steps were silent, yet each one sent a small wave of energy across the floor. I am the last ruler of the Illyrian Empire, she said. My world fell to a darkness called the Void Legion, a force that devours light, memory, and life itself. Raylan frowned. The Void Legion? He repeated. I've never heard of them, she nodded slowly. You would not have. They came from beyond time, from the place where stars die. They destroyed my people, my cities, my sons. Her voice trembled. And when all was lost, I sealed myself here, waiting for a bond strong enough to restore what was broken. Raylan stared at her glowing face, feeling a strange pull inside his chest. Why me? He asked quietly. Why send a signal to a dying human from a dying Earth? Because, Elindra said gently, our fates are tied. The same darkness that destroyed my world is moving toward yours. Raylan's heart sank. You mean the Void Legion is coming to Earth? She nodded. Yes, and soon your people will not survive their return unless we stop them together. Raylan shook his head. I'm just a pilot, not a hero. Elindra smiled faintly. That is why you were chosen. True courage is not born from power, but from despair. As she spoke, the air between them shimmered with faint blue light. The same strange hum Raylan had felt when he first arrived began to grow stronger. It pulsed like a heartbeat, both his and hers. The temple's floor opened, revealing a circular platform glowing with ancient runes. This is the heart of Vereen, Elindra said. The source of all life energy in this galaxy. It is dying just as I am. But it can be restored through a life bond, a connection between two beings of pure will. Raylan blinked, confused. A life bond? Like linking minds? She nodded. More than minds. It is a merging of souls, thoughts, and life force. If we join, we share power, pain, and destiny. If one of us falls, both will perish. Raylan hesitated, looking at his hands. That sounds like suicide, he muttered. Or salvation, she replied softly. If the bond works, it could awaken the heart and stop the void spread. But it must be done now. Before the temple's energy fades, the room shook again. This time with deeper rumbling outside, the skies had turned red, flashes of dark light streaking across the horizon. Elindra's expression darkened. They have found us, the Void Hunters. Raylan looked around, panic rising. What do I do? Trust me, Elindra said, extending her hand toward him. Take it, and let the bond begin. For a long moment, Raylan just stared at her hand, glowing with soft light. He could feel his instincts screaming to run, to escape this madness. But something inside him, something deep and unexplainable, told him this was right. He reached out and grasped her hand. Instantly, light exploded around them. He felt a sharp jolt shoot through his veins. His heartbeat merged with hers. His thoughts flooded with visions. Stars being born, planets burning, cities rising and falling. He saw her memories, her pain, her loneliness. He saw her people dying under the black clouds of the void. Elindra's voice echoed in his mind. You are connected now, Raylan Ward. The bond is complete, Raylan gasped, his body glowing faintly with blue light. What is happening to me? He cried. Your human form is changing, adapting, Elindra said gently. The bond gives you part of my strength, my sight, my essence. Raylan's eyes glowed for a moment, and he saw the world differently. Layers of energy, streams of light, every living thing connected by invisible threads. It was beautiful and terrifying. Suddenly, the temple walls cracked. A shadowy figure appeared at the entrance. Tall, armored and faceless, its eyes burned with red fire. Elindra's voice turned cold. "The void has arrived." She raised her hand, forming a shield of energy around them. "Run if you wish." "Human," the creature's distorted voice echoed. "You cannot hide from the end." Raylan clenched his fists, feeling the strange power flowing through him. "Not today," he said under his breath. Elindra looked at him and smiled faintly. "Then let us fight as one." Light burst from the center of the temple as their powers joined. The shadow screamed and dissolved into mist outside. The sky split open as the battle for survival began. And in that moment, Raylan understood. This was no longer just about saving Earth or one alien world. It was about saving the light of all living things from the endless darkness that hunted them. The air inside the temple shimmered with blue light, and the walls pulsed like a living heart. Raylan stood beside Elindra, his breath heavy, his mind spinning with visions that weren't his own. He could still feel her presence inside his thoughts, her emotions whispering softly in the back of his mind. It was strange, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. The battle outside had ended as suddenly as it began. The shadow creature was gone, dissolved into the air, but its warning echoed inside Raylan's head like a dark echo. "You cannot hide from the end." Elindra lowered her hand slowly, the glowing shield fading away. Her silver skin dimmed slightly, and her eyes turned soft again. "You did well," she said gently. "The bond is stronger than I expected." Raylan touched his chest, where a faint blue light now pulsed beneath his skin. "What did you do to me?" he asked, his voice shaking. "I feel everything. I can hear your thoughts, your pain, even your memories." "The life bond connects us completely," Elindra replied. "Your mind is open to mine and mine to yours. It is how our energy becomes one." Raylan took a slow breath, trying to steady himself. But even as he closed his eyes, flashes of images filled his mind. Alien cities floating above oceans of light, towers made of crystal and skies filled with silver wings. He saw Elindra's people laughing, living, and then screaming as darkness consumed their world. He opened his eyes quickly, shaking his head. "I saw it," he whispered. "Your world, your people. Everything they lost." Elindra's gaze dropped to the floor. "The Void Legion took everything from us," she said quietly. "They feed on life itself when they destroy a planet. They leave nothing behind, no light, no memory, not even dust." Raylan clenched his fists, anger burning inside him. "And now they're coming for Earth," he said. "Yes," she replied, "but there is still time. The heart of Vereen is awakening, and through it, we can fight back." Raylan frowned. "How?" "I don't even understand how this bond works," she smiled softly. "Then you must learn." Elindra moved closer and placed her hand on his chest. Immediately, the world around them changed. The temple faded, and Raylan found himself standing in a vast ocean of light. Stars swirled above him, and streams of glowing energy flowed through his body. He could feel Elindra beside him, though her form was made of pure light now. "This is the mind connection," she said, her voice echoing through the vast space. "Here, thought becomes power, emotion becomes strength, and truth cannot be hidden." Raylan looked down at his hands, which glowed faintly blue. "So this is inside our bond?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Here we train, here we grow. Here we remember." Suddenly the light shifted, and he saw images floating around them like memories made of fire. He saw human soldiers fighting alien fleets, battles in space, cities burning, and then something shocking. He saw humans working beside Illyrians long ago. "Wait," Raylan said, "humans and your kind fought together before?" Elindra's expression grew solemn. "Yes, long before your history began, we created your species, Raylan. The Illyrians designed humans as a final hope. A blend of courage and empathy, a weapon that could resist the void." Raylan's mind went blank. "You're saying humans were made by aliens?" Elindra nodded slowly. "Yes, and you are their last success. Every human carries a spark of Illyrian light inside their soul. That is why the bond worked, why I could reach you when no one else could hear the signal." Raylan tried to speak, but words failed him. His entire life, everything he believed, was suddenly turned upside down. He thought about Earth, its dying lands, its desperate people, and realized maybe they were never truly alone. The light around them began to fade, and they returned to the temple once again. Alindra stepped back, her face calm but serious. The void knows you now, she said. They will hunt us across the stars. Raylan walked to the edge of the temple and looked out at the alien landscape. The blue forests shimmered gently under a pale sky, but far in the distance black clouds were gathering, twisting like a storm of shadows. How do we stop them? He asked quietly. Alindra followed his gaze. To stop them, we must leave this world, she said. There is something buried deep within the stars, something older than the void itself, the core of creation. It is the source of all light in this galaxy. Raylan turned toward her. You mean we have to find it? Yes, she said. And to do that we must escape before the void arrives. She raised her hand, and the temple's floor opened again, revealing a hidden passage filled with glowing cables and strange alien machinery. My ship is below, she said. It can still fly, but it needs your energy to awaken. Raylan took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the bond inside him. Then let's do it, he said firmly. Alindra smiled, her eyes shining like stars. You are more like us than you know, she whispered. Together they stepped into the depths of the temple, following the humming lights that led to an ancient hangar where a massive silver ship waited. Its surface was smooth and alive like liquid metal. The bond between them glowed brighter. Guiding the way outside, the black storm drew closer, the sound of distant thunder echoing across the alien sky. The Void Legion had found their trail, and as the hangar doors began to open, revealing the stars beyond, Raylan knew one thing for certain. This journey was no longer just about survival. It was about uncovering the truth of what it meant to be human, and why the stars had chosen him. Deep inside the ancient temple, the hangar hummed with fading energy. The massive silver ship rested within a cradle of glowing cables, its surface flickering like ripples on a quiet lake. Raylan stared at it with awe. It looked alive, like a creature breathing softly in sleep. Alindra placed her hand against its surface, and streams of light moved from her fingers into the ship's core. The Seraphis, she whispered. The last ship of the Aelirian fleet. It has slept for centuries, waiting for this moment. Raylan stepped closer, his reflection shimmering across the metallic surface. Can it still fly? He asked, unsure if this ancient thing could move again. Alindra smiled faintly. It will, but only with your help. The ship needs the bond's power. It responds to both our energies. Not one alone. Raylan nodded, pressing his hand next to hers. The moment his skin touched the surface, the ship came alive. The hangar filled with light as engines roared like thunder. The floor trembled beneath them, and ancient walls cracked open, revealing the dark blue sky beyond. Alindra looked at him, her eyes glowing bright. Once we leave this world, there is no turning back, she said. The void will follow, and the journey will test everything you are. Raylan took a deep breath. Then we better not waste time, he said. The ship lifted off, rising through the collapsing temple, debris falling around them like rain made of fire as they broke through the clouds. The stars filled the sky, countless lights stretching across endless darkness. It was both beautiful and terrifying. Inside the cockpit, the controls moved on their own, adjusting smoothly as Alindra linked her thoughts to the ship. The walls around them glowed faintly with alien symbols. Each symbol pulsed in rhythm with their heartbeat. The Seraphis was not just a machine, and it was part of them. Alindra turned to Raylan. I will teach you to navigate through the stargates, she said. They are ancient routes once used by my people, but now corrupted by the void's influence. Without the bond, no human could survive them. Raylan nodded, gripping the pilot's chair. Tell me what to do. She placed her hand over his, and the cockpit filled with shimmering energy. In an instant, the stars outside stretched into lines of light. Space twisted and folded, forming a glowing tunnel that swallowed them whole. Raylan gasped as colors he had never seen before flashed around them. It felt like falling and flying at the same time. He could feel Alindra's heartbeat inside his chest, guiding him through the chaos. Focus, she said. You must see with more than eyes. Follow the rhythm of the stars. Not their light. Raylan closed his eyes, letting the bond guide him. Slowly, he began to sense paths of energy flowing like rivers through space. He turned the ship gently, feeling its response as if it were alive. The Seraphis glided smoothly through the corridor of light. Alindra smiled. You are learning fast, she said softly. Suddenly, alarms echoed inside the ship. The lights flickered red, and the tunnel ahead began to collapse. Dark shadows swirled like smoke within the stargate. The Void Hunters, Elindra shouted. They followed us through. Outside, monstrous shapes emerged. Ships made of black crystal, their movements sharp and silent. They fired beams of red energy that tore through the tunnel walls. The Seraphis shook violently, sparks flying from the control panels. Raylan gritted his teeth. Hold on, he yelled, pulling the ship into a steep dive. Energy bolts exploded around them, painting the tunnel with bursts of red and blue light. Elindra focused her power, forming a shield that glowed like silver fire. But the enemy was fast, too fast. One of the dark ships rammed into them. Breaking through the shield, the Seraphis spun out of control, crashing out of the tunnel into normal space. Stars reappeared, distant and cold. The alarm screamed again. Engines offline, Elindra said quickly. The bond energy is unstable. Raylan grabbed the controls. We can't stop here. They'll find us. I know, Elindra said, her voice steady despite the chaos. But there is one chance in a nearby system with a dying sun. We can hide there and use the heat to recharge. The ship drifted toward the distant light of a red star. Its glow flickered weakly, surrounded by debris and silent planets. They entered orbit around a small rocky moon. Elindra leaned back in her seat, exhaustion showing on her face. You did well, Raylan, she said quietly. Few humans could have survived the Stargate. Even fewer could control an Aelirian ship. Raylan gave a faint smile. Guess I'm learning fast, he said, trying to hide how drained he felt. His hand still shook from the energy he had used. For a few moments there was silence. Only the soft hum of the ship filled the air. Outside, the red sun glowed like a dying ember, casting shadows inside the cockpit. Then Elindra spoke again, her tone quiet but serious. The bond is changing us, Raylan, she said. I can feel your emotions, your memories, your fears. And you can feel mine, Raylan nodded slowly. Yeah, it's strange, I can sense your pain. And your hope, she smiled. Hope is what keeps us alive. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped. A massive energy wave appeared on the radar, heading straight toward them. Elindra's eyes widened. They found us again, she whispered. Raylan looked out the window, seeing dark shapes forming in the distance. Then we fight, he said firmly. Elindra stood, her hand glowing with bright energy. No, she said. This time we run, and we run toward Earth. Raylan stared at her, stunned. Earth? But it's not ready for war, she turned to him, her voice calm but determined. Then we will make it ready. Outside, the stars began to twist again as the Seraphis prepared another jump. The bond between them flared like a flame, and for a moment, Raylan could feel the heartbeat of the entire universe pulsing through his veins. And as the ship vanished into the sea of stars, chased by the darkness of the void, the true journey of humanity's last hope had only just begun. The Seraphis cut through the endless dark, leaving behind a trail of blue light. The stars blurred around them as they traveled faster than thought. The ship hummed with a quiet rhythm, like a heartbeat that matched Raylan's own. He sat in the pilot's seat, eyes fixed on the glowing map in front of him. The destination was clear. Earth. Elindra stood beside him, her silver hair flowing softly in the low light. Her expression was calm, but Raylan could sense the tension in her thoughts through the bond they shared. She was afraid not for herself, but for what awaited them after hours of silent flight. The dark sea of stars began to brighten. Ahead of them, a familiar blue world appeared. Small, fragile, and scarred Earth. It looked peaceful from space, but Raylan knew the truth. Cities were broken, oceans poisoned, and humanity was living in shadows. We're home, he whispered, his voice heavy with both relief and sadness. Elindra gazed at the planet. Your world is beautiful, she said softly. Even wounded, it still shines, Raylan nodded. It used to be brighter, he said, before the wars. Before we lost hope, she looked at him, her violet eyes glowing faintly. Hope is never lost, she said, only forgotten. As they approached the orbit, the ship's sensors started flashing red. Incoming transmissions, the computer announced. Multiple human fleets detected, Raylan frowned. Earth Command must have seen us, he said, but they won't believe what we're carrying. Before he could explain, several human warships appeared, surrounding them in a tight formation. Their weapons locked instantly. A mechanical voice filled the cabin. Unidentified vessel, this is Earth Command. You are entering restricted space, power down and prepare for boarding. Elindra looked at Raylan. They think we're the enemy, she said. Raylan sighed. They don't trust anything that comes from the stars anymore. He switched on the communication channel. "This is Captain Raylan Ward, United Earth Command. Stand down." "This is not an attack, I repeat. This is not an attack." There was silence. Then another voice came through, cold and sharp. "Captain Ward, you're supposed to be dead. Identify your crew." Raylan hesitated, glancing at Alindra. "I'm not alone," he said. "I have someone with me. Someone who can help save us all." The voice on the radio changed tone. "Alien presence detected. Surrender immediately or we will open fire." The Seraphis shook as warning shots exploded near its hull. Alindra raised her hand, forming a shimmering shield around the ship. "They are frightened," she said. "Fear makes humans dangerous." Raylan gritted his teeth. "Then we'll land and prove we're not the enemy." The ship descended through the thick clouds, breaking into the ruined skies of Earth. Below them, the world was gray and broken. Old cities stood like bones under the clouds, yet here and there. Small lights still flickered, pockets of human life. They landed on a military base in what used to be North America. Soldiers surrounded the ship instantly. Weapons aimed, tanks rolled into position. A voice shouted through the speakers, "Step out with your hands up." Raylan turned to Alindra. "Stay close to me," he said. She nodded silently. Her eyes glowing faintly, the door opened, and bright lights hit them. Raylan raised his hands. Stepping forward slowly, "Don't shoot," he shouted. "I'm human. I'm from command." The soldiers froze, whispering among themselves, then behind them. A tall officer stepped out, Admiral Kellen, Raylan's old superior. His face was hard, eyes cold. "Raylan Ward," he said. "You vanished 3 months ago and now you return with that." His eyes moved to Alindra, who stood beside Raylan, calm but radiant. "She's not an enemy," Raylan said quickly. "She's the reason I'm alive. She's the reason Earth might survive." Kellen's jaw tightened. "We'll see about that," he said. "Take them both." The soldiers moved in, separating them. Raylan tried to resist, but electric cuffs snapped around his wrists. Alindra didn't fight back. She looked at him with calm eyes and said through the bond, "Do not fear, Raylan. The bond will guide us." They were taken into a cold facility deep beneath the base. Steel walls, bright lights, and the smell of machines filled the air. Raylan was locked in one room, Alindra in another, separated by thick glass and metal. Hours passed. Raylan sat in silence, trying to reach her through the bond. But her presence was faint, weak. He could feel her pain, the energy of the life bond fading. "She's dying," he whispered, realizing the truth. The bond was breaking because they were apart. Then alarms rang through the base, red lights flashed, soldiers shouted, "Something's entering the atmosphere." Raylan's heart stopped. He could feel it before they even said it. The sky outside was burning. The Void Legion had arrived. Massive black ships appeared in orbit, covering the stars. The ground shook as beams of dark energy struck the earth, tearing through cities like waves of fire. Screams echoed through the speakers. Raylan slammed his fists against the door. "Let me out," he shouted. "I can stop this." Kellen appeared on the screen, his face pale. "You brought them here," he said. "You led them to us." Raylan shook his head. "No. They were coming either way, but we can fight them. We have to release the Queen. She can help." But Kellen didn't listen. The signal cut off. The room trembled as explosions hit nearby. Raylan felt his chest burning, the bond pulsing wildly. Alindra was in pain. He could hear her faint voice inside his mind. "Raylan, I need you." He took a deep breath, his eyes glowing faintly blue. The bond surged again, and for a moment, the cuffs melted like water. He stood up, his veins shining with Illyrian energy. "I'm coming," he whispered. He stepped out into the hallway filled with smoke and chaos, soldiers running, alarms blaring, and fire spreading. The sky outside glowed red as the Void Legion descended, and in that moment, Raylan knew the truth. The war had finally come home. And if he didn't reach Alindra in time, both of their worlds would die together. The base shook like thunder beneath Raylan's feet. The air was filled with screams, alarms, and the metallic scent of burning steel. Outside, the sky was no longer blue. It was red and black, fire and shadow twisting together as the Void Legion's warships covered the heavens. Raylan ran through the smoke-filled corridors, his heart racing. The bond between him and Alindra burned inside his chest like a living flame, guiding him toward her. Soldiers rushed past him, some firing at invading drones that had already breached the base. Their bullets barely slowed the machines, which moved like dark insects cutting through walls with blades of light. He turned a corner and found 2 guards trying to drag Alindra toward a containment cell. Her silver hair shimmered even in the smoke, and her eyes glowed faintly with pain. Raylan shouted, "Let her go!" and raised his hand. A pulse of energy burst from his palm, throwing the guards back like leaves in the wind. Alindra fell to her knees, weak but alive. He ran to her, breaking her restraints with one swift motion. She looked up at him and smiled faintly. "You came," she whispered. "Always," he said, pulling her close. The bond flared again, stronger now, light flowing between them like silver fire. Around them, the walls trembled as explosions shook the ground. "We must reach the command tower," Alindra said. "If we connect my power to their defense grid, we can push them back, but we'll need time." Raylan nodded, helping her to her feet. Together they ran through the corridors, dodging falling beams and fires. Soldiers stared as they passed, a human and an alien queen moving side by side like myth come alive. When they reached the surface, the world above was chaos. Dozens of dark ships hovered over the land, sending down storms of burning plasma. Earth's remaining defenses fired back, missiles, railguns, and lasers lighting the skies. But the Legion's shields absorbed them all. The ground was littered with debris, and the air burned with the cries of battle. Raylan guided Alindra toward the command tower at the center of the base. Every step felt heavier, every explosion closer. He could feel the fear of his people, humanity's last soldiers, trembling through the air. They were brave, but they were losing. A massive shadow passed overhead, and Raylan looked up. His blood turned cold. A colossal warship, the Harbinger, descended from the clouds. Its surface glowed with dark symbols, and its main cannon began to charge. "That's their command ship," Alindra said quietly. "Their leader is on it, the one who destroyed my world." Raylan clenched his fists. "Then we finish this," he said. Inside the tower, chaos reigned. Officers shouted over radios. Screens showed burning cities. London, New Tokyo, New York, all under attack. Admiral Kellen stood at the center trying to regain control. When he saw Raylan and Alindra, his face twisted in disbelief. "You broke out?" Kellen shouted. "You've doomed us all." "No," Raylan said firmly. "We're your only chance." He pointed to Alindra. "She can connect her life force to our systems. She can turn the shield into a weapon." Kellen hesitated, torn between fear and hope. Outside, the sky flashed again. The Harbinger's cannon was nearly ready. "If you're lying," Kellen said, "we're finished." "Then we've got nothing to lose," Raylan replied. Kellen gave a short nod. "Do it." Alindra walked to the central control core, placing her hands on the glowing surface. Her veins lit up like rivers of silver, and the entire tower began to hum. "The energy must flow through both of us," she said softly. "Our bond will power the shield." Raylan joined her, pressing his hand against hers. The connection surged, light expanding around them. The base trembled as a massive wave of blue energy shot into the sky, forming a dome over the battlefield. When the Harbinger fired, the beam hit the dome. But instead of breaking it, the energy twisted, turned, and reflected back. The massive ship shook violently as its own weapon ripped through its armor. Cheers erupted across the base, but Alindra's eyes darkened. "It's not over," she whispered. "The commander of the Legion will come himself now." As if summoned by her words, a dark portal opened in the sky. A figure emerged. Tall, cloaked in living shadows, its eyes glowed red like twin stars. Its voice rolled like thunder. "So, the Queen hides among the humans," it said, "and bonds herself to one of them. Pathetic." Alindra stepped forward, her voice steady. "Your time ends today, Zorath." The dark figure laughed. "Your power is fading, Queen of Ashes. You traded eternity for a mortal." Raylan moved beside her, his hand glowing with the same light as hers. Then let's show him what mortals can do. Zorath raised his hand, lightning of darkness striking the ground. Soldiers were thrown back. Buildings crumbled. Elindra countered with waves of light. But each strike weakened her. Raylan felt her pain through the bond. She was burning her life force to protect them. "Stop," he said, holding her. "We fight together." He closed his eyes, letting the bond fully merge. Energy exploded outward, silver and blue spiraling into the air. The two stood as one, human and alien queen, light and flesh. Zorath roared, charging forward, but their combined energy hit him like a star. The sky split open, the ground cracked, and for a moment the world went silent. When the light faded, Zorath was gone, dissolved into dust and shadow. The remaining Legion ships began to retreat, their formation breaking apart. The red skies began to clear, showing faint traces of dawn. Elindra fell to her knees, exhausted. Raylan caught her before she hit the ground. Her breathing was weak, her skin pale like moonlight. "You did it," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "We did it, Raylan, but the bond, it's fading." He held her tighter, shaking his head. "No, stay with me, please." But her eyes slowly closed, her voice a whisper in his mind. "The war is over, my love. Now it's your world's turn to live." Raylan's tears fell as the first sunrise broke over the ruined earth, lighting the smoke-filled sky with gold. Humanity had survived, but at a cost that would never be forgotten. The first rays of sunlight touched the ruins of Earth. The smoke had finally begun to fade, and for the first time in years, the sky was clear, no longer red or black, but soft and golden, like the memory of peace returning. Raylan stood on a broken hill overlooking what was once the command base. The ground was scorched, the air still heavy with ash, but life was stirring again. Birds had returned, their faint cries echoing through the silence, and somewhere in the distance a child laughed. It was fragile, but it was real. He looked at the small crystal in his hand, a fragment of Elindra's life essence. It pulsed faintly with silver light, the last trace of her energy. When she had sacrificed herself to save the world, her body had vanished in the burst of energy that destroyed Zorath. Leaving behind only this shard, Raylan had promised her he would rebuild what was lost, and that promise became his purpose. Days turned into weeks. The survivors gathered under his leadership. Former soldiers, scientists, engineers, and even farmers came together. They began building shelters, reconnecting power grids, and planting crops again. Humanity was broken, but not defeated. Every night, Raylan would sit under the stars and hold the crystal, feeling the faint warmth it still carried. Sometimes he swore he could hear her voice, a whisper carried by the wind. "Do not grieve, my bond lives within you." He missed her, not just as the alien queen who had saved humanity, but as the soul who had taught him what true connection meant. Through her, he had felt the unity between two worlds, two beings, two hearts that should never have met but did, and changed everything. As months passed, humanity began to adapt to the new world. The Void Legion's technology, left behind after their defeat, was studied carefully. Some of it was too dangerous, but other parts held answers. Energy cells that never ran out, metals that could heal themselves. Raylan worked side by side with scientists to merge alien technology with human ingenuity. Slowly, the first new city was built. They named it Haven Prime, a city of light powered by both human and Illyrian energy. Inside the central tower of the city, at its very heart, a new beacon was built. A glowing column of silver and blue light formed around Elindra's crystal. It pulsed steadily, spreading energy across the city, powering every home, every shield, every hope. Raylan stood before it one evening, his reflection shimmering in the crystal's light. "You see, Elindra," he whispered. "Your dream didn't die, it became real." Behind him, Admiral Kellen entered quietly. His uniform was torn, his face older but his eyes softer now. "You've done the impossible, Captain," he said. "You've given us a second chance." Raylan nodded slowly. "She gave it to us," he said. "I just made sure we didn't waste it." Kellen looked at the beacon. "Is it true what they say?" he asked. "That it still speaks to you?" Raylan smiled faintly. "Sometimes. When the world is quiet," he said, "I can feel her. Like a heartbeat, Kellen put a hand on his shoulder. Then maybe she's not gone, he said. Maybe she's just changed. Raylan looked out over the city, lights shining like stars reborn. Maybe, he whispered. Or maybe she became part of this world, the world she saved. As night fell, the city came alive. Children ran through glowing streets, laughter echoing where once there had been fear. Drones patrolled peacefully overhead, powered by clean energy. The air was fresher, the sky brighter. It was not the old Earth, but something new, something better. Raylan walked through the crowd, people nodding to him, some saluting, others simply smiling. To them, he wasn't just a hero. He was a symbol. The man who had bonded with an alien queen and brought light back to a dying world. Later, he returned to the hill where the final battle had taken place. The crater where Alindra's light had burst was now filled with soft green plants, glowing faintly in the dark. They were not of Earth, they were Illyrian, grown from her essence, proof that she had left life behind, not death. He knelt and touched one of the flowers, feeling warmth through his fingertips. You kept your promise, he said softly. You gave us a new beginning. The wind moved gently, carrying a voice that only he could hear. And you kept yours, my Raylan. Tears filled his eyes. But they were not tears of sorrow, they were of peace above him. The stars shone brighter, and among them, one star pulsed with soft silver light. He knew what it was, her spirit watching, guiding, forever bound to the world she saved. Raylan stood, breathing deeply. The air was cool and filled with hope. Humanity had survived, learned, and grown, and though the scars of the past remained, they were reminders of the cost of unity, and the beauty that could rise from it. He looked toward the horizon, where the sun began to rise again. Golden and vast, he whispered. The new dawn has come, Alindra. And for the first time in years, he smiled. The light grew stronger, spreading across the land, touching every broken city, every heart, every dream. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, for in every breath of wind and every shimmer of starlight, the bond between man and alien still lived, eternal, unbroken, and beautiful. And so, the story of the last hope of mankind did not end with war, but with rebirth, not with sorrow, but with peace. It ended with a whisper of love and the beginning of a new world.